Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Kunja Vihari Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantara Sri Caitanya ki jai. Jai Shri Shri Gaura Anitai ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Govardhana ki jai. Krishna Balaram Giri Govardhan ki jai. Jai Brenda Devi Tulsi Devi Maharani ki jai. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Govardhana. So welcome everybody to our weekend Sri Caitanya Caritamrita class. Today we'll be speaking on Madhya Leela chapter 1 verses 123 to 126. I'm not sure which verse is on the board, but we'll find out. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. We know what's on the board there. There's a board right here. No? Which verse did you put up? The first one? 120. Bhakta. Okay, good. So we'll chant the first 1, 2, 3 verses. I think verse 126 has the purport. And we'll do some more reading. Bhakta Sanidina Katatahani Rahila Godera Bhakta Aishe Samachara Paila Bhakta Sanidina Katatahani Rahila Godera Bhakta Aishe Samachara Paila Bhakta Sanidina Katatahani Rahila Godera Bhakta Aishe Samachara Paila Others. Bhakta Sanidina Katatahani Rahila Bhakta Sanidina Katatahani Godera Bhakta Aishe Samachara Paila Bhakta Sanidina Katatahani Rahila Godera Ladies. Bhakta Sanidina Katatahani Rahila Godera Bhakta Aishe Samachara Paila. Anybody else? Bhakta Sane with the devotees. Dina Kata, some days. Tahani, There at Alalanath, Rahila remain Gordera of Bengal, Bhakta devotees, Aisi come, Samachara news, Paela got translations and coming up purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu remained for some days at Alalanath. In the meantime, Caitanya Mahaprabhu received news that all of the devotees from Bengal were coming to Jagannath Puri. Text 124, Nityananda Savabom Agraha Kahina, Ila Chale Hela Mahaprabhu Ina. Translation, when the devotees from Bengal arrived at Jagannath Puri, both Nityananda Prabhu and Sarvabhauma Acharya greatly endeavoured to take Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to Jagannath Puri. Vihare Vivala Prabhuna Janirati Dine Ena Kale Haila Godera Bhaktagane. Translation, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally left Alalanath to return to Jagannath Puri, he was overwhelmed both day and night due to separation from Jagannath. His lamentation knew no bounds. During this time, all the devotees from the different parts of Bengal, and especially from Navadvip, arrived at Jagannath Puri. Sabe mile yukti kali kirtana arambila kirtana abese pabula mana stira baila. This is verse 126. Translation, after due consideration, all the devotees began chanting the holy name congregationally. Lord Chaitanya's mind was thus pacified by the ecstasy of the chanting. Purport, being absolute, Lord Jagannath is identical in person, form, picture, kirtan, and all other circumstances. Therefore, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, he was pacified. Previously, he had been feeling very morose due to separation from Lord Jagannath. The conclusion is that whenever a kirtan of pure devotees takes place, the Lord is immediately present. By chanting the holy names of the Lord, we associate with the Lord personally. Translation again, after due consideration, all the devotees began chanting the holy name congregationally. Lord Chaitanya's mind was thus pacified by the ecstasy of the chanting. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyanam Gyana Shalakaya Sakshu Sumilitam Jena Tazmae Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishnam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swarupam Kadamayam Dalati Svaparantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Basari Gaura Bhaktavenda Panchakalpataru Vishya Kripasindu Beyavicha Patitanam Pavnivyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. So, we heard, I don't know if those of you were here last weekend, we heard about Lord going to Alalanath, where he's presently situated. This chapter 1 of the Madhya Lila is a synopsis, so we sort of move very quickly in little point form through the pastimes that are going to be elaborated right through the next, with 25 chapters in Madhya Lila. Mostly Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri for 18 years and 6 years travelling throughout South India and other places in India, including Vrindavan. So I remember being in Puri many years ago. We visited Alalanath. It's quite a very beautiful place, quite some way. I think we drove about 20 kilometres or so. And we were very fortunate in that particular visit. We were a small group of devotees, just the brahmacharis and a couple of householder men from Sydney Temple. We went as a small group. And we had Sarvabhauma. I don't know if you know Sarvabhauma, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. He was then working on one of the very first translations of Chaitanya Bhagavat. This is very early 80s, quite some time ago. And we're very fortunate because we were hearing pastimes we hadn't heard before for the first time. So our program was we would get up morning and have our Mangaladi and chant our rounds and have a class. And then we would go on Harinam all day long throughout the streets of Puri and visit all the holy places. And we were asked by local devotees to collect for the ISKCON temple to be. So we would actually sell books in Puri. and magazines. And then we would hear, and Sarvabhauma would come with us and tell us all these wonderful pastimes. It was, anyway, he told us when he said, in terms of Alalanath, he said Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ran all the way there in great anxiety and separation. When he arrived at Alalanath, he collapsed, and there you can see, I think Devagora Hariprabhu showed us some photos, I think it might have been last week or the week before, of this big stone where Mahaprabhu he actually melted to his body from his transcendental ecstasy. So you can go there, and we went there, and you can see all the marks of Mahaprabhu's body. It's quite, and they offer water in those sort of dings, you know, and tulsi. And the pujaris gave us some of that tulsi. So yes, so when I hear the place Alalanath, it brings back this wonderful memory. And this is what I mean. Some years ago, we decided to have these classes, and one of the reasons was that we got the impression at the time that many devotees hadn't read or don't read Caitanya Caritamrita. We took a show of hands on one of the first classes, and at that particular class, I was given that class, not a single devotee put their hands up that had read the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita. I think there's probably a few more these days, especially amongst our seniors. So we decided to have these classes because the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita is very, very important, especially for the devotees of the Hare Krishna movement. Anyone want to have a guess why it might be important? So important? Yuga Avatar. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Yuga Avatar. Anybody else? Yes, he's the founder of our movement. You know. Pardon? We're in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. We're in the line directly from Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada put tremendous effort in translating the CC for us. They went on an insane marathon, and his devotees, they work so hard. Yes, it's actually the book of the Hare Krishna movement. It's so important because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inaugurates the specific process for this rotten age of Kali Yuga, how to reach spiritual perfection. And he does it in such a wonderful way. He personally comes as a devotee, Bhakta Avatar, and exemplifies the process. It's so important because we can identify it with us so much. Maybe perhaps some of the pastimes in the Bhagavatam, which are from millions of years ago, different planets, the message of bhakti is certainly there and wonderful and very purifying to hear and remember. But specifically Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, we can relate to it. You know, the food they were eating, the kirtans, even the places you can go there right now. You can go to Jagannath Puri. I think it's all changed. I haven't been there for some time, Maharaj. You've been there for a while. No, I haven't been there, but it was quite pleasant in those days, similar to Vrindavan, and Mayapur was a bit more simple and nice dust roads, not many buildings. The beach was clear. Now it's all high-rise hotels on the beach and many people and cars and noise, and so. But still, that film, that covering of the dams is there. But beneath all that are the eternal pastimes of the Lords are going on. So we absorb ourselves in these pastimes by hearing rather than seeing. In a lecture in 1967, Srila Prabhupada said that everybody wants to see God, and he said everybody wants to see God, and he says simply hear and be with Krishna. Simply hear and be with Krishna. So by hearing, we're able to, and the wonderful thing, the more you hear, and devotees, especially our devotees, our seniors, the more you hear these pastimes, when you attend a class, even there might be a junior devotee, like a not advanced devotee speaking, just hearing these things because you've heard them over and over again, it creates a spiritual explosion in your mind because you have that smaranam. So that's why as the years go on, the more and more you hear, the more and more you relish classes because it's not just a couple of words being said, it creates memory. I was reading with Mukunda Maharaj last Saturday, and we were reading about Akrura coming to Vrindavan, and I was saying to Maharaj, I said, we've heard these pastimes so many times, but I said, I'm still really excited about, even though you know what the next thing is going to be, we're so excited. And the Maharaj said, yes, we can go deeper and deeper. That's what he said, we can go deeper and deeper. So the Vedic sound vibration reverberates with no limit. So you can never say, I've got it, I've heard it, I know it. It's not possible. Prabhupada one time said in the lecture 1974, we have to fully understand Krishna to be able to go back, fully understand Krishna. And a moment later he said, it's not possible to fully understand Krishna. Then he said, Janma kamachame divyam. Then he said, just try to understand Krishna. Then you can go back home to Godhead. So Krishna's pastime is unlimited. The process of bhakti for this age is now being fully manifested. It's so wonderful. Bhagavad Gita, we begin at the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita. The conclusion of the Gita, we have to do bhakti. So that you will get that conclusion. Even it says, out of all the yoga, yoginam api sarvesham, the yogis that actually abide by me, think of me, remember me, serve me, they're the highest. That is my opinion, Krishna says. And then soon after, in chapter 7, Bhavanam Janmanamante, out of all the Gyanis, those who understand that Krishna is everything, surrender to him, they are the greatest. So ultimately, Krishna brings the conclusion of the Gita to surrendering onto him, giving up all these other processes and doing bhakti. And that's what we're trying to do. And Srimad Bhagavatam, again, demonstrates bhakti in action. And we see all different types of bhakti, mixed bhakti, akama, sakama, moksha, all types of devotees throughout times, history, performing bhakti. So now we get a practical example of bhakti. Then we get to the CC. And we don't only just get the process for this age, but we hear about the greatest and highest form of bhakti. Topmost bhakti, which is the pure devotional service that Srimati Radharani performed in separation from Krishna. There's no higher understanding of bhakti. So this is what Srila Prabhupada has given us, this process with the Gita, Bhagavatam and the CC. So CC is very important from both the practical application of bhakti in this age, this Sankirtan movement of chanting and feasting. I remember Bhakti Purushottam Swami said that Prabhupada gave us the two best gods. He gave us the eating god, Lord Jagannath, and the dancing god, Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So if you think about the essence of our movement, that's what we do a lot of. And there's a lot of that goes on in the CC. And Lord Jagannath has 56 offerings a day. And I think our deities have, 5 here? Is that what we have? Pajaris, Mangaladi, Rajbhoga, fruit offering, 740. Yeah, I think, pardon? Is that right? 5 to 6. What's the 6th one? Nighttime milk. Yeah, we used to have the 9 o'clock offering. We stopped at the 8:40. That was such a popular offering. If you were keen to stay up, it was just like, because there was a lot of ghee, sabjis and puris. That was Krishna wakes up with a big plate of milk sweets and goes to bed with a big plate of ghee, sabji and puris. That's why he's God. You can digest all that. Very interesting. So Lord Jagannath, he does a lot of eating. It's described that before he has time, for his hands and mouth has time to dry, after eating his meal, there's another meal in front of him. And that goes through to about 11 o'clock at night. He eats and eats. And it's an extraordinary place, with the temple there. They cook for 100,000 people a day, you know. And we were there, we were very fortunate because we had connections through Sarvabhauma and the local devotees to a very wonderful devotee life member. And in the morning for breakfast, we'd just have some fruit, and I think we'd go and get a couple of samosas from one of the local samosa wallahs. And it was a simple breakfast. But at lunchtime, this life member would send a flat rickshaw full of Jagannath Prasad, clay pots. So over there they cook in those pots, they offer in those clay pots, and they just use the one time so you can take from them. So they'd bring all these clay pots, and we'd just that small group of us would sit there and have this maha, and it was extraordinary prashadam because the things you can't imagine, the flavours, and we would eat and we'd go, ooh. Some would be quite unique. I remember Krsna saying, try this one, it's quite unique, and you'd take a mouthful, it'd be saturated in mustard or something like that, you know. Mm. And also when the devotees in Mayapur built that, at Rajpur built the Jagannath Mandir there, the Australian Yatra, and I think also the German devotees, we all actually collected for that, or contributed to the building of that temple. So when we were in Mayapur one year, there was like a secret invitation. I don't know if you were there for that, Maharaj, but boy, it's something you didn't want to miss. But so they invited us to this beautiful little temple in Mayapur of Lord Jagannath, and they prepared a wonderful feast, I guess like a thank you, acknowledging our service, that little service that we did for the Lord. And they served out this feast, and I have to say, it was Lord Jagannath Prasadam is just like, same thing, we're lined up there, and the Prasadam would come on your plate, and you taste it, and the flavours and things you've never experienced. And plus it's saturated with the love of Lord Jagannath. He's just so merciful and so kind. And we take it and we go, whoa. And you tell the devotee next to you they're just getting his serving, you've got to try this, you've got to try this. And then there's something else that comes, whoa. You know? And I still remember that feast, it just blew my mind. Because Prasadam we know is transcendental, but there's different levels of Prasadam. This particular Jagannath Prasadam was really potent, very powerful. And I still remember it, and the feeling of taking that Prasadam. So Mahaprabhu's program, now we're hearing he's having great separation. Lord Jagannath has gone away after the Snan Yatra. So he goes off to Gudinch, he's out of sight. And this is why Lord Jagannath is having great anxiety and separation, because he's in that mood. Our acharyas tell us that he's in the mood of Srimati Radharani at Kurukshetra. That Krishna's there, but he's not there sort of mood. And I mean, this is very confidential and very advanced topics, but we're very fortunate because actually it was Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu that revealed the internal deep meaning of Rath Yatra. Before that, I don't think we devotees knew about this meaning of Rath Yatra. So he's run off to Alalanath. He hears news that devotees would visit every year, especially from Navadvip, all his eternal associates from there. They'd travel for 1 month. It would take them from the time they would leave there, they would go to Dvaitacharya's house first, and they would have 1-day festival there, Krsna Kirtan, getting warmed up for the Jagannath Puri Yatra. Then they would go to visit Mother Sachi and offer her respects and get her blessings, and she would actually start crying. She was feeling also very deep separation from Mahaprabhu. He's a young man, he'd taken sannyas at the age of 24 and left home and left his mother and his dear wife Vishnupriya, so they were like in intense separation. They would go there, then they would travel for 1 month, and a great devotee would serve all those devotees. And their last few times ago, I mentioned this devotee, and I said we have to start remembering the associates of Lord Caitanya. So can anyone remember who the devotee was that guided the devotees? He actually paid for all the tolls at Prasadam, accommodation. Shivananda saying, anybody else remember? So we got to slowly, as time goes on, try and remember these great personages, because Gauranga Mahaprabhu to Lord Caitanya means Lord Caitanya and his devotees. And I say this many times, God is not a loner. He's always with his devotees, and it's a wonderful journey during these pastimes, because all these eternal associates from Vrindavan, they all come, and gopis take the form of men, and all sorts of, trees come as devotees, and even great devotees from this universe like Lord Brahma come, and Prahlad Maharaj, and Hanuman, and so many devotees come and participate in these pastimes. So he's hearing news, these devotees are now arriving. They will come every year. They did this every year that Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri. And it mentions here that 2 devotees. Who remembers the 2 devotees? Lord Nityananda, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. It's very interesting because we read these things and within seconds we forget them. It's a rule. That's why we have to read and chant every day, because we can't remember. It's very difficult to remember. Anyway, they were enticing him, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then decided to return. And he had a very wonderful routine, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He would, and it's very regulated. He would go to the Jagannath temple every day and see Lord Jagannath. Every single morning he would go there, and he would stand in a particular place at the Garuda Stamba, which is a big, statue of Garuda. We can't go in there and see these things, but we hear about it. Again, hearing is the key. And he stood there particularly because it was a bit away from the more dense crowds that were closer to the altar. And from that particular position, he could directly see Lord Jagannath, specifically Lord Jagannath. He would gaze at Lord Jagannath endlessly for a long period of time without deviating for a second, totally focused on Lord Jagannath. And it's explained by Acharyas when he would see Lord Jagannath as Shyamasundara Krishna. He would see him as Krishna playing his flute, directly Krishna himself. He would just stand there. And then after that, he would engage in kirtan, chanting and dancing. And then after that, he would go to the Siddhaguru Bakul, the place of Srila Haridas Thakur, which was close by. And also, when Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswami were staying there, he would go and visit them. That was his routine. Right? So he's going to see the deity, he's engaged in chanting and dancing, he's visiting his devotees. Then he would go and visit more devotees, and then he would recite more Shastra and chant verses. And every day he would go to Tota Gopinath and visit Gadadhara Pandit. Again, Gadadhara Pandit, Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nitya. These are all the intimate associates of Lord Caitanya that come with him. Gadadhara Pandit is actually Srimati Radharani, the internal potency of the Lord. It's interesting, as Acharyas tell us, she particularly came as him. She wanted to witness Mahaprabhu experiencing what she experiences, see how he coped with it. Because as Srimati Radharani in separation, she suffers transcendently so much, so much. So he would go there and they would read Bhagavatam for 2-3 hours every day. So if you analyse, and where were they? They were in the holiest place of Jagannath Puri. So if you analyse those activities, can anyone pick up what I was going through then? In terms of, pardon? Morning, yeah. And morning program covers those 5 primary angas of bhakti. Mahaprabhu every single day would undergo those 5 angas. We have the 64 angas given by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nectar Devotion, but these 5 primary ones are very, very important, and the second chapter is written just about those. So Mahaprabhu would personally perform these angas every single day, exemplify the process of bhakti for this age. And Srila Prabhupada again did it again. He designed this morning program, so all these angas. And I find Bhagavatam classes specifically good because you get the 5 in 1. We're seeing the arti see the arti every day during class. Have darshan of the deities. We chant Hare Krishna, Radha Madhava. We hear the Bhagavatam, the association of devotees in the most sacred place, New Govardhana. So it's my favourite time of the day. It's a very special time that we're getting the most direct forms of bhakti possible and most important. And Prabhupada was mentioning in the Ekadashi class yesterday, and a few of those that were here, was a wonderful class, a really wonderful class. And he was saying how we come to see the deity, we meditate on the deity, and we take that impression with us. And this is throughout the day when we're walking, sitting, talking, doing other things, we remember the Lord. So that's the idea of this morning program that creates like a stamp in our consciousness that we try and carry with us. And the deities are so beautiful, and the devotees that dress the deities and blow my mind every day. It's such a wonderful service that they do. It's just every single day since 1977, since we've been here. I mean, the deities were installed slightly after that. And you see that everywhere, devotees every single day, I don't know what the weather is doing, whether the bridge is flooded, what's going on. The altar is just spectacular. It's like, what to speak of the dresses themselves, the cloth, the colours, the coordination, the garlands, all the intricate details, and devotees all. I can just imagine, I'm not a pujari, but the devotees I look after cows, so I meditate on and dream about cows. The other day I was just feeding cows in my dreams, But anyway, I do that as deity worship because they're Radha Govardhana Dhari's cows, they're the deity's cows, so it's an extended service to the deities. So that's my deity worship. But the devotees that dress the deities, I can just imagine must just meditate like anything coming up to your day of service, because they're all prepared. They've got all their jewellery picked out and their garlands and their colours. So it's a wonder. You can see what the Prabhupada was saying, that what to speak of seeing the deities, but serving the deities, the impression it makes on your consciousness. So, and he was comparing that to trying to meditate, sitting and meditating. He was saying you're basically going to go to sleep. and your mind is going to wander off. It's the best that you see Krishna, then you go and do something. And then when you're doing something, performing some service, and you remember Krishna. So again, that's Prabhupada gave us very authorised what Prabhupada has given us. It's directly following in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we're very fortunate. So the mood of Mahaprabhu is, again, in manifest rather the CC. I'll just read this verse back here because we sort of forget what we read a few weeks ago. Verse 56 is very much on topic of this chapter. Because we're having a discussion at the moment on our class chat about perhaps doing more reading and less talking. But I remember originally we wanted to have these classes so people would become maybe more interested or more enthused to read the CC by hearing a bit about it. You might. So this is text 56 of this chapter. This is about a song that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to sing a lot. The song is the verse before. Se parana nata painu yata lagi madana dahani juri genu. This is quote, I have gotten the Lord of my life for whom I was burning in the fire of lusty desires. So this is, again, very confidential high topics, but the purport is what I want to read here. So this verse 56 says, Lord Chaitanya used to sing this song, Saita Paranath, especially during the latter part of the day. And he would think, quote, let me take Krishna and go back to Vrindavan. This ecstasy was always filling his heart. So again, this is the mood of the devotees when they do Kurukshetra. They wanted to take Krishna and take him back to Vrindavan. And we have the Rath Yatra coming up next month, in a few weeks. And that's the mood when we repeat this over and over again, but those robes are the robes of the hearts of the devotees. We're trying to take Krishna back to Vrindavan from Kurukshetra, from Dwarka in his royal attire. We want to see him, the devotees, they want to see him back in Vrindavan. It's not the same, even though it's explained the way the Acharyas, they even had a little private Rasa Leela at Kurukshetra, the gopis and Krishna, but it wasn't the same. There was elements. So the place is very important. Vrindavan, the forest, the Jamuna, Govardhana, all these things, they're not there. So the devotees wanted to bring Krishna back. They didn't like seeing him with elephants and chariots and weapons and crowns and, it's not the same Krishna for them. They want their Krishna. So they were trying to bring him back. So this is the mood. So purport here, Prabhupada says, being always absorbed in the ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt the same separation from Krishna that Srimati Radharani felt when Krishna left Vrindavan and went to Mathura. This ecstatic feeling is very helpful in attaining love of God in separation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught everyone that one should not be overly anxious to see the Lord, but should rather feel separation from him in ecstasy. So this is the mood that's been taught. It is actually better to feel separation from him than to desire to see him face to face. When the gopis of Vrindavan, the residents of Gokul, met Krishna at Kurukshetra during the solar eclipse, they wanted to take Krishna back to Vrindavan. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also felt the same ecstasy as soon as he saw Jagannath in the temple or on the Rath Yatra cart. The gopis of Vrindavan did not like the opulence of Dwarka. They wanted to take Krishna to the village of Vrindavan and enjoy his company in the groves. This desire was also felt by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he danced in ecstasy before the Rath Yatra cart festival when Lord Jagannath went to Gudicha. Nice, huh? So this is, it's a very sensual bhakti, like like later on we'll get to chapter 8 and Srila Ramananda Roy. Devagora Prabhu last week gave a very nice summary because Ramananda Roy's disappearance day last weekend, and this will be these points will be elaborated on in a gradual process by Ramananda Roy to the topmost understanding bhakti. So even though it's Kali Yuga, and we are the most fallen, but this particular Kali Yuga, this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes personally himself, even though this is the process, the Sankirtan process is there in every Kali Yuga. in everyday Brahma, which is 1,000 yugas, 1,000 times every day Brahma. The process of Sankirtan is taught for 365 days a year for 100 years of Lord Brahma's life. So it's continuously taught. But this once in the day Brahma, the Sankirtan process is brought in with an extra added flavour, very important. Krishna himself takes the place of that regular avatar, right? Because normally it's a Sakshavesh avatar. Sri Rupa Goswami explains in the Bhagavatamrita. Krishna doesn't directly come, but this time he comes directly in place to inaugurate what would normally be inaugurated, but he comes in a particular mood and he wants to give some extra that normally is not given in the previous ages, which is this mood and love of the residents of Vrindavan. It's very special, unique bhakti that's very, very rare. So even though we might feel ourselves superly unqualified and maybe extremely fortunate is what we are, Srila Prabhupada has given us this, and we've just happened to be in the human form of life in this particular day of Brahma, this particular time in this one yuga where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. And he was here less than 500 years ago. So you can actually go to the places, you can touch him, see him, you can hear about him. It's so accessible. Mahaprabhu is so accessible, and there's so much. And all these teachings, especially in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, are given. That's what Prabhupada gave us this specific book rather than perhaps the Chaitanya Bhagavad, because the Tattva, there's great explanation of the position of Mahaprabhu at the beginning of the Adi Leela, very, very clear understanding who he is, why he came here externally, internally, backed up by so much Sastric reference, and then the elaborate purport of Srila Prabhupada, also quoting the previous acharyas, specifically his own spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, gives us so much information for us to understand the position of Mahaprabhu and his purpose here, and then throughout the CC you'll hear the discussion of Sarvabhauma Acharya, Ramananda Roy, Prakashananda Saraswati. There's so many deep and the instructions, the Rupa, Sanatana. There's just so much to learn, and it's very applicable to us right now in this age. So again, we want to encourage all the devotees to really work your way. If you haven't, I mean, most of you probably have, but if you haven't worked your way through the Gita and the Bhagavatam, you want to get to the CC. If you want to get an advanced sort of reading, you can read the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which is like a condensed version of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And that's a small book you can read. And Prabhupada again gave us that before he gave us the CC. Devanrita Maharaj, when he was here last time, he was specifically mentioning this point that he's been listening to it every day himself. Audio recording, I think when he has his prasadam, he listens to the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and he was quite impressed and how wonderful this book is. A lot of us maybe haven't read that book for a while, but so if you haven't got time to read the 17 volumes, or you're not up to that point, you could grab aside the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It's a small book, and you can read alongside the Bhagavad Gita. Because it's very important you get to know, because when we approach Krishna Radha and Krishna directly through Lord Chaitanya, not directly through them, we can't go directly, not possible. And it's clearly explained in the CC. So we have to appreciate, understand Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself. And you can't attain Lord Chaitanya without the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And you can't attain the mercy of Lord Nityananda without the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. What do? So the way to attain the mercy of Nityananda is you do his bidding for him, his work, which is engaging in the preaching movement that Srila Prabhupada established. This is how we attract the mercy of Lord Nityananda. We go and assist the Jaga Madhas out there to give up their bad habits and take up the chanting of Hare Krishna. So as mentioned here, this chanting is so important. In this purport we read today, it's the Yuga Dharma, and Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Krishna's form, his name, they're all directly Krishna's. It's not a separate, it's not that Krishna's name that's his name and that's Krishna. No, it's actually the same. Krishna's body is the same as him. It's not like our body is different than us. We're embodied. Krishna's not embodied. He is his body. He's the only one who can say, I'm the body. we can't say we're the body, but he can say he's the body. So that Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna's form, his pastime, and Lord Jagannath is directly Krishna himself, so you can experience Krishna in many ways. And we encourage you in these purports to, we've joined a movement of separation, so we're going to be feeling more separation than union in this lifetime. You know? And I mentioned a couple of classes ago, perhaps, this is in the, I won't say the whole thing again, but this is mentioned by Lord Ramachandra when he visited Navadvip. He stayed there for some time, and he was, had a bit of a smile on his face, and Mother Sita inquired, why are you smiling about? And he revealed he was going to come as Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and he was going to take sannyas and leave his mother and wife embracing each other, crying their hearts out. and anyway, I'm repeating it anyway. It's nice to hear again. And she said, why would you do that? If you know you're going to take sannyas, why would you put him through so much suffering? And then he revealed, he said, my eternal devotees, my Nitya Siddhas, these are the devotees that come with the Lord, that are never conditioned. My eternal devotees, they really enjoy being with me, but for me, I show them a special favour by creating separation. And that separation is so intense that when we have union again, our love increases by 1,000,000 times. So he's just churning the hearts of the devotees through separation. So it's embraced by the devotees. It appears like intense suffering, and it is on the spiritual level, but it's the highest form of love and divine ecstasy that devotees can experience. This is what's been taught, even though it's a very confidential and elevated subject matter. But Mahaprabhu has come to give us these teachings, and Prabhupada's given them to us gradually through the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Nectar Devotion. We have to very carefully study, understand these books, otherwise, especially when we get to the Antya-lila, we're going to think this person is a mad person. Because the things that Mahaprabhu does later on in the Antya-lila is hard to understand from the external point of view. You have to have some sort of basic spiritual understanding received from Srila Prabhupada and his devotees. So I'm going to stop now because I could talk for a long, long time. But so Mahaprabhu had this routine every day. He would see the Lord. It's very similar to what we do. And we are following in his footsteps. And the reward from this is unmeasurable. You can't imagine. Any quick comments or questions? I've got 10 minutes. Microphone, please.
Thanks for class. We were just talking about Jagannath Prasad. There was that story you've probably heard that in the early days the local priests were struggling to maintain that Jagannath temple at Rajpur, so they approached Mayapur devotees to take over. So Jayapataka Maharaj said, okay, but we have to get all the red tape and, have it legally in our possession. So until then, he just wanted the very basic worship being done. And one night, Mayapur Pujari had a dream, and he saw Jagannath Baladev Subhadra walking out of the temple across the fields towards Mayapur. And the Pujari in the dream called out, hey, where are you going? And says, well, Radha Madhava gets better prasad than us. So we're going over there. So when Jayapataka Maharaj heard that, okay, we have to do full cooking, full worship. So,
yes, there's extraordinary stories of that particular Jagannath in Rajapur. There was that rickshawala. You heard that? But he was a Muslim rickshawala, and then some devotee gave him some Mahaprasadams and Jagannath. He threw it on the ground. And that night he had the dream. Jagannath, Baladev and Lady Subhadra, they were beating him for throwing the Mahaprasadam. They were beating him. And he came back the next day and he told the devotees a story. And he brought all this nice offering as well. He brought lots of bhoga to offer to the Lord. He said, they were beating me, especially the black one. He was beating me. And the yellow one was telling me, beat him more. I said, Mother, Lady Subhadra, beat him more. Mother Chamrit Devi Das. Please give her the mic.
Just one on that Jagannath deities. I don't know if you were there, Ramai Maharaj, but when they were first gifted to ISKCON, we were there for the Mayapur festival. And Jayapatak Maharaj was exceptionally excited. And he made an announcement that this morning we were going to get on some buses and go over to, it was in the early 70s, not super early, but pretty early, and we were going to go over to the Jagannath temple, and some devotees had made a path to get to the temple. So I think there was about 3 or 4 buses. We thought there was so many devotees. And as we walked through, the grass was actually head height, and they'd made a path. And we got there, and the temple area and the deities had not been maintained very nicely, but we had the most ecstatic kirtan, and there was absolutely nothing in that area. But it just felt very much that Jagannath Balaram Subhadra had arrived, and it was just absolutely wonderful. So, yeah, and then from there to now.
Because those deities were previously discovered in an anthill.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Imagine wooden deities in an anthill. What would normally happen to wood in an anthill? They were totally... Eh? Do you know that's anything about that, Maharaj? I remember that. I don't remember how long ago it was, but they were discovered in an anthill. They were eternal forms, and they were rescued, and very special because deities in any deities in the particular dham. This was told to us by Sridhar Swami. I was doing a course there in Mayapur. Any deities in the dham, they automatically take on the mood of the predominating deity of the dham, which in our case is Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So this was related to us in relation to Lord Nrsimhadev, Ugra, coming to Mayapur. He said we didn't have to worry because Lord Nrsimhadev takes the mood of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Otherwise the whole place would be burnt by now. He's so angry. So angry. Anyway. Anything else? One more quick, you got one? Quick one? Yep, 8:25. I like to honour the 8:30 bell, so or more, or earlier.
Thank you for the wonderful class. I think this question brought up before, but just to remind or to understand different angle, how do we increase the feeling of separation throughout the day?
Boy, is it. Maharaj, you don't want to answer that question, do you? Thank you. You can't really ask me a question like that. I mean, our separation comes from intense service because we're serving someone we're developing our love with more and more. So the more you serve, the more the separation is going to increase because you're going to want to have that union ultimately, which I guess is returning back home, back to Godhead. But having said that, devotees don't need to go back to Godhead to feel the presence of Krishna because, again, like mentioned in this purple, Krishna is present in his holy name. He's present in the association of devotees and his deities. And we saw Mahaprabhu was feeling great separation and a big kirtan went on and he was pacified. So it's like an in and out sort of a process, Krishna consciousness. There is separation, but there's union as well. But ultimately separation comes from service, you know, and remembrance. You know? It's like during the war, there was no internet back in the Second World War and First World War. They would write letters. And they'd be waiting and waiting for these letters, and then they would get the letters from their loved ones. And it'd be great. So that separation is... You're asking me something I'm not advanced enough to answer. But yeah, my understanding is through devotional service. And another point I'll finish on is in the Hare Krishna movement and service of Lord Caitanya, the rust of the mood is in servitorship. We don't have to worry about being a cowherd boy or a goat or anything else. You serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through service. It's a movement of service. Nothing else. We serve, and if you look at all the devotees at that time that came, they were all servants of Lord Caitanya. There was no other. Lord Chaitanya wasn't engaging in Rasa Leela or other activities. He was a devotee himself in the move of the highest devotee, Srimati Radharani. And Sri Rupa Goswami says that Radharani is the only devotee, anyhow. She's the only devotee. Everyone else is a devotee of her, or a devotee of a devotee of a devotee. So he came in the mood of the topmost devotee, so in service. And the service is performed as a Yuga Dharma. So then that's what we have to do. We engage in Yuga Dharma, in service, and everything else that we may wonder about in terms of separation or rasas and all that, will be manifested through that process. You know? You know, I heard Bhakti Sri Swami said that Lord Chaitanya will take our Vaidhi Bhakti, which is our sadhana Bhakti, and he will personally transform that into Raganuga Bhakti, into spontaneous loving service. We don't have to separately endeavour. We're getting a bit beyond my pay grade here. Thank you very much. I hope that answers some of your questions. Keep serving and chanting and everything will manifest. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Right on the knocker. Seven.